Beneath the gilded domes of Venice's Basilica di San Marco, where candlelight flickers across mosaics of saints and martyrs, a secret older than the city itself lies entombed, a mystery cloaked in sanctity and shadow. For centuries, pilgrims have knelt before the sacred relics of St. Mark the Evangelist, unaware that the hallowed remains they venerate might belong not to a Christian apostle, but to the greatest conqueror the ancient world ever knew, Alexander the Great. The audacious theory, dismissed by some as heresy and embraced by others as revelation, suggests that the Macedonian king's body, lost to history since antiquity, was stolen, smuggled, and sanctified under a stolen name. After his death in 323 BCE, Alexander's golden sarcophagus became a magnet for emperors and thieves alike, drawing Caesar to weep at its foot and Caligula to plunder its armor. Yet by the 4th century CE, his tomb vanished as if swallowed by the sands of time. How could such a monumental figure, a demigod who reshaped continents, disappear without a trace? The answer, some whisper, lies in a Venetian merchant's daring heist. Amid the chaos of Alexandria's decline, the story goes, his corpse was seized, disguised, and shipped to Italy, where eager clerics, mistaking the mummified conqueror for the martyred Mark, enshrined him as a saint. The implications are staggering. If true, it means generations of the faithful have unwittingly prayed not to a humble evangelist, but to the restless spirit of a man who burned cities, declared himself a god, and died clutching the world in his grasp. Historians balk at the immortality gaps. How could records of Alexander's tomb evaporate so completely? Was it mere negligence or something darker? The silence feels deliberate, as if history itself conspired to bury the truth. Today, the basilica's vaults hum with unanswered questions. Does the faded linen wrapped around those bones still bear the scars of Babylonian arrows? Do the echoes of his ambition linger in the crypt's cold air? The Vatican neither confirms nor denies, leaving the mystery to fester. A ghost story written in flesh and bone, where faith and fraud intertwine. Here, in the heart of Christendom, Alexander the Great may have achieved his final, ironic triumph. Immortality, not as a king, but as a saint, a conqueror cloaked in holy deceit, forever entombed in the whispers of the devout. In the shadowy corridors of ancient myth, where gods and mortals blur, a chilling echo reverberates across millennia, a tale told twice. The Egyptian god Horus, falcon-headed lord of the sky, rises from the sands of time not as a relic, but as a mirror. Born of the Virgin Mary, heralded by a star, baptized in sacred waters, betrayed, crucified, and resurrected after 3 days. His story, etched in hieroglyphs long before Bethlehem's star shone, mirrors another with uncanny precision. To whisper these parallels is to tread forbidden ground, where faith collides with the ghostly fingerprints of history. Scholars dismiss it as coincidence, a trick of fragmented texts. Horus had 4 disciples, not 12, they argue. His crucifixion, a mistranslation. His virgin birth, a modern myth. Yet the echoes persist, haunting as a desert wind. What if the Gospels, rather than divine revelation, are a palimpsest, an ancient story rewritten, its pagan bones clothed in new flesh? Imagine a 1st century scribe in Alexandria, lamplight glinting on papyrus, weaving threads of Osiris and Isis into a messianic tapestry. The Nile's gods, drained of blood by Rome's conquest, might yet live on in coded form. A subversive, Resurrection. Early Christians, after all, walked a world steeped in Egyptian cults. Did they borrow, adapt, survive? The Vatican's silence is thunderous. To admit syncretism would unravel the divine uniqueness of Christ. Yet, the patterns linger like smoke. Horus heals the sick, raises the dead, battles a serpentine devil. Sound familiar? Even his stepfather, Seb, shares Joseph's archetype, the humble guardian of a sacred child. But here, in the dust of disputed scrolls, the mystery deepens. Some claim the parallels are illusions, a 19th-century hoax, a fever dream of occultists and atheists. Yet fragments of the Book of the Dead, older than Abraham, describe judgment halls and heavenly fathers, souls weighed against feathers. Coincidence? Or evidence of a shared human longing, a story so primal it erupts again and again, wearing different masks? The Vatican's archives, rumored to hold lost hermetic texts, could hold answers, or bury them. Tonight, as candles gutter, in crypts where saints lie entombed, the question lingers: is Christianity a revelation or a revenant? A faith born in a manger, or reborn from the ashes of older gods? The shadows hold their tongues, but the echoes refuse to die. Beneath the shifting sands of time, the whispers of the ancient world's greatest repository of knowledge still echo. A labyrinth of scrolls consumed by flames, yet tantalizingly alive in rumor and shadow. The Library of Alexandria, once the radiant heart of human intellect, now exists as a spectral enigma, its demise shrouded in theories as volatile as the fire that may have devoured it. Was it Julius Caesar's reckless siege in 48 BCE, when flames leapt from warships to ignite the city's soul, reducing 500,000 scrolls to ash in a single arrogant blaze? Or did the end come later, in the smolder of religious fervor, as zealots purged pagan wisdom from a world they deemed too sinful for its truths? Some argue it was no cataclysm at all, but a slow unraveling, a death by 1,000 cuts, as empires plundered its halls, carting off knowledge like loot, until only hollowed shelves remained. Yet, the darkest whisper persists. What if the library never truly perished? Rumors coil through history like smoke. Among the charred fragments and scattered ashes, legends speak of a clandestine exodus, precious scrolls on medicine, astronomy, and mechanics spirited away in the dead of night, smuggled across deserts and seas to a new vault, the Vatican's clandestine archives. Imagine it: Aristotle's lost dialogues, Hipparchus's celestial maps, even blueprints for Archimedes' war machines, all entombed beneath layers of sanctified stone. The Holy See guards its secrets with papal silence, but what if its shadowed halls cradle not just scripture, but the ghost of Alexandria itself? Scholars dissect the plausibility. Could Roman conquerors or medieval monks have sequestered these texts, deeming them too potent for the masses? The Vatican's archives, sealed to outsiders, stoke the speculation. Are those cobwebbed corridors a mausoleum for forbidden knowledge, or a prison for truths that might unravel dogma? Theories clash like symbols. Caesar's fire is the simplest answer, but too neat, too absolving. The religious purge theory implicates human fear, our habit of burning what we cannot comprehend. Yet the slow dismantling chills most deeply. A metaphor for how empires erode truth, brick by brick. And if the Vatican hides even a single scroll, it raises a haunting question. Who controls the past? And why? In the dim glow of history, the ID library's ghost lingers. Its absence is a void that swallows light, but its rumored survival is a flicker in the dark, a promise that somewhere, in the silence between faith and secrecy, the world's oldest truths still breathe, waiting to be unearthed. Within the hallowed, echoing chambers of the Vatican's Gregorian Egyptian Museum, the air hums with dissonance, a sacred gallery where the gods of the Nile stand frozen in exile, their stone eyes fixed on a foreign horizon. Here, amid flickering lamplight, the relics of a vanquished civilization brood. Statues of Isis and Osiris, funerary masks gilded with forgotten prayers, mummies swaddled in linen older than Christendom itself. These are not mere artifacts. They are spoils, wrested from the sands of Egypt in 30 BCE, when Rome's legions crushed Cleopatra's reign and reduced her kingdom to plunder. The Battle of Actium marked not just the death of a queen, but the birth of a cultural heist, a conquest that saw obelisks hauled across seas, temple carvings pried from walls, and sarcophagi paraded through Roman streets as trophies of imperial might. For centuries, they adorned the villas of patricians, symbols of dominance masquerading as decor. Now, they linger in Vatican vaults, their origins cloaked in the velvet language of preservation. But the Nile's whispers defy sanctity. Modern Egypt demands their return, voices rising like a desert storm, accusing the Holy See of sanctified theft. How can the Vatican claim guardianship, critics ask, when its possession began with the blade? The museum's curators speak of salvation, framing themselves as saviors who rescued these treasures from decay, even as they omit the bloodstains on their provenance. Yet the artifacts themselves seem to murmur rebellion. A stele inscribed with hieroglyphs glares from its glass prison. A statue of Anubis, jackal-headed guide of the dead, appears to tilt its snout toward Cairo, as if scenting home. The debate simmers, a moral inferno veiled in diplomacy. Is this cultural reverence, or conquest eternalized? The Vatican's silence is a fortress, its archives a labyrinth of unanswered pleas. Meanwhile, the relics endure, caught between reverence and exploitation, their stories rewritten by victors. They are more than stone and papyrus. They are spectral hostages of history, their existence a haunting question. When does preservation become appropriation? When does devotion disguise dominion? The answers, like the mummy's bandages, unravel slowly, revealing not bones, but the ghost of empire, still breathing, still hungry, in the heart of Rome. In the sun-scorched wasteland of Upper Egypt, where the desert devours memory and time, a scrap of papyrus surfaced from the grave of centuries, a fragile, fraying fragment that threatened to unravel the very fabric of Christian orthodoxy. Known as the First Apocalypse of James, this forbidden text, unearthed amid tax records and donkey receipts in a 5th-century trash heap, bore a revelation so explosive it had been buried twice, once by sand, once by decree. Written in staccato, Greek, its words, dotted like breadcrumbs for the uninitiated, unveiled a Jesus unrecognizable to the pews. Here, the Messiah whispers secrets to his brother James, not of a loving father, but of a cosmic trap. The material world, he insists, is no divine creation. It is a prison, forged by a malevolent demiurge, a false god who shackles souls to flesh and delusion. To know this truth, Jesus warns, is to awaken to a nightmare. The heavens are a lie, salvation a rebellion. The Church moved swiftly to silence it. By the 4th century, bishops condemned the text as heresy, ordering its copies burned, its scribes exiled or martyred. Why such fury? The answer trembles with existential dread. If the world is a cage, then the God of Genesis becomes its jailer, and the crucifixion, not a divine sacrifice, but a key smuggled into the cell. This was theology as grenade, its shrapnel capable of shredding centuries of doctrine. The Vatican's archives still reek of such purges. In hidden chambers, banned gospels gather dust, their pages heavy with truths too dangerous to breathe. Yet the apocalypse lingers, a phantom in the margins. Scholars dissect its Gnostic poison, its dualist bile, but its power lies in the questions it leaves hanging like a sword. What if the Church's greatest fear isn't disbelief, but alternative belief? What if faith, as we know it, is but a palatable myth draped over a darker, older truth? The desert wind carries whispers, still, of other texts, other revelations, buried deeper, waiting. In the Vatican's vaults, do more of these spectral gospels sleep? And if awakened, would they confirm the world's sacredness, or unmask it as a gilded tomb, ruled by a God who is not God? The sand keeps its secrets, the papyrus smolders, and in the silence between heartbeats, the prison's walls creak. In the shadowed vaults of the Vatican, where relics whisper secrets of millennia, 2 mummies once hailed as ancient phantoms from a forgotten world were unmasked as grotesque impostors, a chilling revelation that unraveled a tale of greed, obsession, and macabre deception. For decades, their withered forms, swathed in yellowed linens and an aura of sanctified antiquity, had been venerated as sacred emissaries of the past. But when modern science clawed through the layers of myth, DNA analysis tore away their masks. These were not desert-dried ancients, but medieval Europeans, dead barely 500 years. The truth was darker than fiction. These were no accidental survivors of time. They were 19th-century fabrications, born of Europe's feverish mummy mania, a ghoulish craze that saw graves plundered, corpses commodified, and history itself forged in the name of profit and pseudo-medicine. Imagine the scene, a dim workshop in some nameless European town, where a forger's hands, steady and merciless, stitched together a macabre puppet show. Bones of the recently dead were scorched to mimic antiquity. Resins and bitumen, sticky and reeking, were slathered onto skin to counterfeit the patina of ages. These Frankensteins of archaeology were then sold to collectors, aristocrats, apothecaries, the godly and the gullible, who coveted mummies as trophies of exoticism or ground their dust into elixirs, swallowing decay in pursuit of immortality. The Vatican, that eternal bastion of relics, likely fell prey to the same sinister trade, its halls unwittingly housing lies dressed as divinity. Yet beneath the scandal lies a deeper horror, the revelation that even institutions of celestial authority are not immune to the corruptions of earthly hunger. The mummy's true story is a parable of human folly, where reverence for the past twists into morbid obsession, and the dead are made puppets in a theater of avarice. Their silent screams, frozen behind desiccated lips, seem to echo a warning. History is not merely written by the victors, but sometimes fabricated by the desperate. Today, as they lie exposed, medieval souls trapped in an Egyptian masquerade, they haunt us not as specters of the ancient world, but as ghostly mirrors to our own capacity for deceit. What other truths, we wonder, wrought unseen in the sacred dark, waiting for science's cold light to claw them free? In the hushed, incense-thick corridors of the Vatican, where faith and mortality collide in whispers of sacred mystery, the saints lie waiting, not as ethereal spirits, but as flesh-bound paradoxes, preserved through a practice as ancient as the pyramids and as controversial as sin itself. Since the 1970s, in chambers veiled from public gaze, the Church has quietly resurrected the embalming arts of Egypt's mortuary priests, stitching together divinity and science to defy decay. 31 saints and popes, including the eerily pristine Pope John XXIII, his hands folded in eternal prayer, skin waxy and luminous under chapel candles, bear the marks of this clandestine alchemy. Their bodies, posed in lifelike serenity, are both relics and riddles. Are they miracles of incorruptibility, as believers claim, or ghoulish theater, a medieval fascination repackaged for the modern age? The truth curdles in the shadows. Archivists speak of needles sliding beneath holy skin, of arteries flushed with formaldehyde, of cavities packed with spices once traded for Pharaoh's immortality. These incorruptibles are not merely preserved. They are constructed, their sanctity bolstered by the same embalmer's craft that once guided Egyptian souls through Duat's perilous night. Yet, for all its precision, the ritual is fragile. When Pope Pius XII's body, despite meticulous intervention, succumbed to rot in 1958, swelling grotesquely in its glass coffin, face blackening into a grimace, the Vatican faced a harrowing reckoning. Here was the saintly ideal laid bare, not divine favor, but human error, biology's mockery of dogma. The stench of failure lingered, literal and metaphysical, as theologians debated whether such artifice bordered on sacrilege. Were they honoring the dead, they whispered, or playing God? Behind marble altars and gilded reliquaries, a darker narrative coils. The Church's embrace of embalming is a dance with paradox, a bid to render sainthood tangible in an age of doubt, yet one that risks reducing the sacred to spectacle. Each preserved saint becomes a macabre marionette, their incorruptibility, a performance staged for pilgrims clutching cameras and rosaries. And yet, what chills most is not the practice itself, but the silence around it. 31 bodies, 33 years of secrets, a covenant of concealment broken only when leaks forced the Vatican's hand. The saints, frozen in their glassed-in shrines, seem to watch with painted eyes, as if asking who, in this pact between faith and formaldehyde, is truly being preserved. Their souls, or the Church's waning power? The air around them hums with the unspoken. In the end, even holiness cannot escape the ravages of time, or the hubris of those who would defy it.